put like videos and stuff on YouTube to explain it.
Well, thank you guys for having me. A little bit about me. My name is Bianca Garcia. I am the Community Resilience Coordinator. It's always a mouthful. For OEM, like I was just saying, I joined OEM about a year ago exactly, and I went directly to operations initially. So I was in our 24/7 watch room. I was listening to police and fire radio. I was sending out the public alert and warning messages, so I had that behind the scenes knowledge of OEM. And now I'm doing community outreach, so the tabling, the events, the workshops, trying to be the bridge between the community and OEM. I'm not a subject matter expert by any means. I know a little bit about everything that OEM is doing and try to just point people in the right direction. Prior to that, I was actually in law enforcement for 8 years. I worked down the street at the parole office. So interesting enough, I'm familiar with the strip. So yeah, I'm Philadelphia born and raised. I'm from North Philly. Like, this is my city. So this presentation is literally very high level. It's basically that introduction into emergency planning at the family and household level. So it's a little bit of like what the hazards are that are common in the city, what you need to consider if you need to just get up and go. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't think about a lot of the information we present until it's too late. So we're going to go over quickly like some tips to call 911 with, a little bit of information about sheltering operations in the city. We've had quite a few recently, and just kind of talk about what goes into your emergency plan. So OEM, Office of Emergency Management, basically we prepare for, mitigate, and respond and coordinate recovery efforts for disasters and high-level emergencies within the city. That's everything from household fires that become larger scale. Think of 7400 Roosevelt Boulevard. That was 8 minutes from my house. So I heard and smelled the smoke down when OEM was deploying because I was not on call that week. We ran that shelter operation along with a major one in West Philly the month prior. We did everything from COVID operations to separate strike planning. So we are very high level for the city. Something as simple as Eagles Super Bowl parade and like Phillies baseball games. Like, we are in all of those conversations. So we do a lot of oversight for all of these pieces of the city. We work with police, fire, the water department, the gas company directly. You can think of the agency in the city, we have them on speed dial, a little black book. So we are the middleman for a lot of the pieces of the puzzle that is Philadelphia. When we talk about the hazards that are in Philadelphia and what Philadelphians face, we kind of break it down into two categories. The natural hazards, usually straightforward weather. So tornadoes, hurricanes, extreme heat, extreme cold. The man-made hazards are where things get a little bit gray. Anything that we don't directly, or anything that's not happening on its own, we call that a man-made hazard. So something I always like draw people back to is the refinery explosion. That's a big one that happened in South Philly. That's a man-made hazard. Everything from chemical spills, structural collapses. The Lindley apartment building, that was a major operation for OEM. Drinking water contamination, transport disasters, so think of the train tracks and all of the trains that run through the city, whether they're passenger trains or cargo trains. Explosions and fires, technological disasters, everyone thinks of Microsoft CrowdStrike now, and then social disasters. For social disasters, we actually quantify that as anything that is person on person. Philadelphia's gun violence epidemic is one of them. That is a big one. It's actually built into the hazard mitigation plan. That is something that we are looking at as well. We do have to deploy to certain incidents where there are large-scale shootings in the city. So that is all encompassing. So our eyes are on all this 24 hours a day, 365. And we're here to kind of help you all work through all of that. So I want to talk about hazard mitigation really quick. Hazard mitigation is basically the sustained action that reduces or eliminates the long-term risks that we face. Philadelphia is a city of old infrastructure. We have aging infrastructure. Think of all the water main breaks, our sewer system, things like that that we have to take into account in everything we do. The fact that we're a city of row homes is a major component for our infrastructure. So what can we do to reduce those risks today, but also long term? So it can be anything from revitalization projects, economic help and grants, natural resource conservation, and cost savings. So the hazard mitigation plan is basically a process that assesses the risks and vulnerabilities and comes up with viable solutions. Some are roadmap solutions that can take effect, within a 10, 20-year window. There are solutions that might be tomorrow and this year. We are actively working every year to update that plan. So like I said, we're working on updating it now. We want the community impact. If you guys don't tell us, we can't help. Basically, FEMA also is involved, PEMA, Pennsylvania Emergency Management. All of these different facets are in Philadelphia actively working. This is also the only public-facing plan that the city has out. This is the only plan that residents and community members and businesses have an active plan in and can actively have access to at all times. So some of the 2025 priorities that are taking place now, increased engagement. So basically increase the number of community members, small businesses, and those involved. Come on in. Integration of considerations for social vulnerability. So we're thinking of things like access to functional needs, we're thinking of age, we're thinking of income. We're trying to increase all of these different things that unfortunately are often overlooked in these types of situations with this type of planning. We have, language access is a big thing. I push for all of our materials to get translated. I'm not always successful, but that's something that we're thinking of too. How can we pocket different groups and make sure that they're built into these plans? So robust risk assessment.
Ms. Walker to the front.
Robust risk assessment, that's pretty straightforward. It's making sure that this risk assessment is all encompassing. We're trying to get the big picture and take into account as much as we possibly can. And last but not least is community-driven solutions. Basically, what can we give the public for you guys to take control? It's always to say that the city can come up with a plan, but we want you to be involved. We want you to be accessible to these solutions. We want them to actually work for you. So that's the 2025 priorities. Like I said, right now we're already working on the next update. We have this survey out to the public. I will definitely share the link to the survey for you to send out to everyone. But we want to know what your concerns are. We want to know, your opinions of things. Tell us that you guys are using water so that we know on a bigger scale that this is a problem. If we don't know, we can't plan for it. So this is pretty straightforward. Going into now those hazards, this is the part of the presentation where we're kind of doing a high-level overview of what some of the hazards we face are. Weather. When we talk about weather, and I know I'm an action news girl, you hear advisory watches and warnings, but a lot of people don't actually know what this means. So straightforward, advisory is be aware. Hey, this could happen, it's on the radar, we're not quite sure what's going to happen when it actually gets here, but it's the FYI. So a watch, so a thunderstorm watch, a blizzard watch, meaning it's definitely hitting the area. Be prepared just in case. Things could change. So we might get a watch 2 days out, a day and a half out from the actual storm. And then a warning, that's to take action. So if we have a thunderstorm or a severe thunderstorm warning, we get those quite often. This is also severe weather season. That means that the storm is here, or maybe 6 o'clock news, we know Adam Joseph does it at 6:30. The storm might be hitting at 11 o'clock tonight. That's when we're in that warning phase. That means it's here, it's on the doorstep. Be prepared, you never know. I tell everyone, now that it's September, you never know what's going to happen come winter. We might have a warm winter, we might have a cold winter. Blizzard warnings and snowfall warnings are highly, highly important. I don't know if anybody remembers, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years now, with the snow squall and shut the city down, and no one was prepared for the amount of snow we got. I was slipping and sliding on Belfield. Yeah, I was watching all the cars go downhill. But that's why we say, be really mindful of those weather warnings, because we just never know. Weather's one thing we have no control over. So, fire. Fire is the number number 2 most common hazard in the city. Again, we are a city of row homes. There was a fire in West Philly last month or the month before where it was a porch fire. Houses on either side were taking damage as well. I think it was a grill that caught fire and took the wood porch. And the first floor of the home was damaged, and the fronts of either house on either side were damaged as well. So when I say that we're a city of row homes and that we have old homes, I own a house with a wooden porch. It's a row home. I know that house was built in like 1920s, so I know that something's going to catch on fire at some point. The fire department last year, was it 53,000 fire incidents and more than 268,000 EMS incidents. OEM has the only 24/7 watch room in the city. So when I say there are 2 individuals listening to police and fire 24 hours a day, 365 hours a year, I've heard those phone calls. I've heard those calls escalate. I unfortunately even heard a mayday call recently from fire. The amount of calls they get on a daily is insane. 9 times out of 10 they turn into nothing, but it's always that 10th time where it becomes a big thing. Again, 7400 Roosevelt Boulevard. I can't remember the incident in the street right now, but the month before that was West Philly, and it was the apartment building. So fire is very, very dangerous and extremely common in Philly. Flooding. So flooding is our number 1 concern for the city. We have a few different types of flooding, and this is where I'm going to read because I always mess them up. Riverine flooding, that's our river excess flooding. So we know that we are built in between 2 rivers. We are also at the bottom of the basin. So what happened with Ida, we only got about 2 to 3 inches of rain, but all of the rain that was dumped to the counties north and west of us flowed down. And that's why we had that severe flooding. No one expected to see Ida level flooding when they woke up that Friday morning. I was supposed to leave the city for work. Guess you couldn't leave the city for work. So riverine flooding is extremely dangerous for us. Even the Delaware Avenue, right at Delaware and Spring Garden, or Columbus and Spring Garden, that's a big flooding spot, just because of the way the road divots. So there are certain pockets of the city that we know can experience flooding, but there are also areas of the city that don't normally flood, and every now and then we get surprised. Was it northeastern part of the city last year, and a bunch of the homes had to get declared. They got a whole disaster declaration out of it. Flooding is our concern. Overland and street runoff, that is pretty much what we see when the water starts pulling off on the sidewalks and the roads. When it's raining a lot and it's too much rain coming too fast, you step out, you get your regular flooding. Groundwater, similar, it just pulls in the ground, the natural divots in the sidewalk and the streets. Basement backup and water main breaks. And I pull those 2 together because water main breaks could always cause a basement backup. Basement backups could be from the rain and the sewer lines. These are 2 of the most common because, again, our row homes, 90% of our homes have basements. I'd say that this is where I talk about my personal anecdote. I was a renter, and my basement kept flooding. I woke up the Wednesday before Thanksgiving to a basement full of water. Now what I want to know, I was trying to prepare for the holiday. I knew it was coming over. This is where I plug in insurance, and I tell people as renters and as homeowners, double check your insurance policies. My renter's insurance didn't cover anything because my landlord did not have a sump pump installed. When you're a homeowner, you have to differentiate the type of flooding insurance. So this is why I say I could go on and on about insurance all day long, but double check your insurance policies. I know renter's insurance isn't a common thing for a lot of renters. I didn't know about it at first. I was lucky enough to have someone kind of introduce me to that idea and found out what it was. But we try to tell renters, look into your renter insurance policies. If you are in a complex in a larger building, is it built into your lease? We found that that was the case for one of our fire incidents, that it was built into their individual leases, and it wasn't a separate policy. And then water main breaks, said it earlier. We are a city of old infrastructure. We just had a major water main break, I believe at Brighton and Academy. And actually cause a lot of street damage.
We
So-
have a question, sorry, about renters insurance. Is it required in the city of Philadelphia?
No, unfortunately. So it's based off the landlord property manager. So some property manager, like the larger companies, like Lindley's. Yeah, Lindley, I know they're really good with theirs because they have so many locations. A lot of those larger property management companies usually have a requirement. It's very dependent on who you're renting from, unfortunately.
We did. It's relatively cheap.
Yeah. I think when I was renting mine, it was all like $18 a month. Yeah, renter's insurance was surprisingly affordable even for a good enough amount of a policy. Which is why I always try to tell people get renter's insurance, look into it. I know it's another cost in post-COVID expenses,
It's worth it.
but yeah, you never know. But I just say read your policy, make sure your coverages are like what you need them to be for the type of home that you're renting.
Would be a lot of water damage.
What are your rates? Oh, so just to wrap that up, big one at Grant happened this week, but the amount of structural damage it can cause, you have businesses at home without water for a day or two. I know water disruption is a big concern for you guys right now, so water main breaks, unfortunately, one of those things we don't have any control over, but it happens. Extreme heat, we did have a couple of heat waves this summer, but basically 3 days of 95 degrees or more. We deal with the urban heat effect in the city, basically lack of green space, taller, more buildings, more people condense into smaller populaces, causes more heat. That's why if you look at the weather, the counties are always a little bit cooler than Philadelphia, so it's just the unfortunate reality of living in a city. So we always just tell people be mindful of older adults, children, individuals with health and other medical needs. Potential for power outages is a big one. That might affect, again, individuals who have medical needs or for children or pets. Basically, if you're running your air conditioner, especially window units all day long, it could overpower the grid, you could lose power. Ironically enough, during one of the heat waves, sparks lit up a train route, and we kept having fires along this one train route for the course of a day and a half because of the heat wave. And then visit the city's cooling centers if you need to. Winter, that's kind of the opposite. We're going into the fall winter season now, so this is the time that I was just talk about it some more. But it's pretty similar to heat. Be mindful of your pets, older adults, children, people with other needs. Be prepared for travel issues. The opposite side of power outage for this is power lines can snap and break in freezing cold. If it's cold and there's been rain or some type of snow, the power lines have a greater chance of snapping. In the case of a major weather incident, whether it be heat, cold, storm, PECO actually has their own emergency operations plan. So sometimes they're in our emergency operations center, or they send a representative, and then they'll activate their own location off-site. So we do have like a citywide weather steering committee that basically makes the calls for the level of response that we're trying to prepare for. But PECO is really good about kind of staying on it, dispatching as needed. And then ensure your home has supplies. So I talked about snow and blizzards and snow squalls, you never know what could happen. I can't remember the year. There was that one year we got 2 snowstorms within the same month. Was it 2013, 14, 15, one of those years? But I just remember it was December. We got a foot and a half, 2 times in a 30, 45 day period, and no one expected that snow. So I always tell people this is the time of year that you want to have that go bag, you want to have those supplies ready because again, snow, you never know how bad it's going to be. Alright, so calling 911, we always just tell people, take your time. You're on the phone with them. I know in the moment it's very easy to react based off the adrenaline, based off the fact that it is an emergency. Try to talk slowly and calmly. Start thinking ahead of time of what information you might need to tell them on the phone. Is there someone who needs assistance? Is there someone who doesn't speak a language? Is there a mental health concern? My niece is nonverbal. Those are the things I take into account when I'm at my brother's house. And then if you know anyone who is deaf or hard of hearing, they can text to 911, or I'm sorry, they can't. And then we tell them if they can have some type of script available. So that if they are deaf or hard of hearing, it's easier for them to recite a script because they kind of know the question ahead of time that 911 is going to ask for. The name, the address, what's the concern, what are those needs. So this is usually the part where we kind of go into that go-back planning and make it a little more interactive. I actually did most of the hard work for you guys and brought some kits. But what goes, we said what, your home, your head, and your hand. So in your home, flashlights and batteries. I know most people have their flashlight on their phone. I actually have a mini flashlight in this book bag for you guys. Batteries. I tell everyone just have a couple of every size on hand because you never know. Even if it's the dollar store ones, it's going to get the job done. Water. So I know water is the big topic for you all. So you should have a gallon of water per day per individual. So if you have a large number of people in your home, that is a large amount of water to have. You can get water filtration tablets. You can basically store water in many different forms. So I know I'm going to go into some of that later. So I'm not going to harp on it. Non-perishable food. So that can be your canned goods. It can be emergency food kits. A smaller emergency food kit can range about $50 to $100 on a site like Amazon. Ready Wise is a very good brand. That's actually the brand I have at home personally, but the food is going to be accessible. It's going to be able to be eaten, heated or not heated, and they usually have like a 24-year shelf life. If you can't purchase that, purchase some canned goods that have storage. Purchase some things that are not going to go bad for that just in case day. First aid kits, and pretty much anything else you're going to need. That's what you need to have at home. So what do you need to have in your hand? Copies of identification, your lease, your mortgage, your insurance policies. When I say copies, it doesn't actually have to be physical paper. We live in an era of technology. So if you can't print everything out, if you can't build a folder or packet, have a separate flash drive of things saved. Because everyone's like, oh, I can pull up my insurance policy on my phone. What happens when you don't have service? Because you never know what's going to happen. What happens if that phone dies and there's no power? At least you know you have a copy stored somewhere that you can grab, right? I personally made an emergency plan where I just typed it all into Word, and I just put my insurance policy numbers and who they belong to with the phone number. So that way I don't have to print it all, but I still have it all stored in one place. And then an old school portable AM FM radio. So I don't have one in my home, but I took one from those book bags at some point in my life, now I do. My grandmother probably has 4 radios in her home. So if you have an old portable AM FM radio, those are still very good because guess what? The radio waves are still working. That's one of those things to keep. So I actually have one of those in those book bags for you as well. And then in your head, that is simply, what is your plan? Have you practiced your plan? Have you told others in your family about that plan? It's funny because when we're doing this presentation, everyone thinks of the plan and the emergency route for fire safety and only fire safety, but it could be for anything. People don't understand how quickly a home could flood. They don't understand, especially basement apartments, which that some parts of the city, the basement apartment is a thing. New York, extreme flooding, and a lot of those brownstones have those. Fires are obviously, you just have to run out. But what is that evacuation route? Where is your family to meet? Because mom might be coming from work and the kids ran out the house. So where does she go? They might have grabbed their phones. And then update your plan as needed. So I moved from a house I was renting to my own house. I had to update my plan. My neighborhood changed, my routes changed, my point of contact might have changed. So update that plan as often as you can, whether it just be updating the insurance policies, updating who's on that emergency contact list. Quite frankly, I can't memorize people's phone numbers anymore, so I even have phone numbers written in there. So that's kind of what we mean by your head and like, what are you going to do? Because fight or flight and the adrenaline rush in those situations is real. You never know how you're going to react. So when they say practice it, think it through, if you need to, like, you know, physically just walk out the house, go to that point, walk back home every now and then, so that when it is time to react, you react. So for the go back plan, this is kind of where we're going to do a little bit more detailed discussion about it, so we can just kind of go this really quickly. But an extra house or car key. Car keys are very expensive, so that's not always possible. But if you have a go bag and it's built so that you can run out the door with it, or maybe you have a miniature version already in the car, having some extra key is useful. So the house key is good, if nothing else. Extra batteries and phone chargers and power banks. So I would say if you have that extra cord, because you know we buy the 3-pack from Amazon, throw it in that packet because you never know. Cash. In the middle of the night, on a fire ground, OEM is going to get you a SEPTA bus, but what's going to be open? You never know if that 50 bucks in cash, small bills, is going to be beneficial to have. In a larger scale incident, you might have lost your cards. You might have left the wallet in your house when you ran out. So having even, you know, 20, 30, 40 bucks in that go bag is going to help you immensely. Important documents we kind of talked about. Medication. If anyone who knows on medications and can spare extra medications, great. If not, having a list of the medications that you or anyone in your household takes is very, very important. When we do shelter operations, there will be nursing staff and medical staff on site. So if you can at least tell them what you need, then the process of getting medication is going to be a lot easier. They can then make those calls for you. But I always talk about myself because it's a lot easier than literally, like my grandmother. I know she's on medication. I know a couple of them, but I can't tell you the dosage. I can't tell you the milligrams. So God forbid in a situation, I know I would be useless. So having that list accessible, and something we can do is just go to a pharmacy and get a printout. I know Rite Aid and CVS wants to print out everything for you. You can just shove it in. You don't have to do the work. Flashlight, paper and pen. Who keeps a pen in their car or their bag? Good job, because not many people do. I lose pens because they're all over the place. I probably have 6 of them in the car at this point. I usually have one in my sleeve, but a paper and pen. If you have even a half-used notebook and an old pen, just throw it in that book bag or that bag, because again, you never know. You might have to get information and might need to write down some phone numbers. You know, fire, police, or even us on an incident site might have information for you. This way you can write it down, you won't forget it, you have access to it. And then, what else? So this is the stuff that people don't think about. So hygiene items for women, that's very important. Pets and supplies. Do you have pets at home?
Yes.
No? Okay, yes. So, I love my dog, he's my fur child, I have to take into account for him. So I tell people, if it's a single family home, you can get the pet inside stickers, or even for an apartment. I know you can get them free from the ASPCA if you do it online. They usually say, oh, donate. You don't have to donate, but you can put in your information, get this pet kit, and there'll be stickers and magnets for you.
There's this thing, it just came out recently, where it's, it looks like a pet phone, and you put it where your pet is in your apartment, and if it detects smoke, it's like a smoke detector, and it will light so that they can find your pet.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have to look into that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, so I have the pet sticker on my screen door, so people know. But pet supplies, when you're planning to like a shelter in place, or like again for that blizzard, do you incorporate pet supplies, pet food? That's something that people don't often think about. So what is your pet going to eat if you stay at home for 3 days because we got 3 feet of snow and everything's gridlocked? So it's something to consider. So children and infant supplies. So I tell everyone again, worst case scenario, if you have that go kit, 1 thing of formula if it can be spared, or a jar of baby food just for in the moment. If it was a situation that warranted a shelter, we would have all the supplies for you, but you just need to get to the door, right? So what's that in-between phase, and having just a few of the things you might need for your child just in case. And then mobility devices. So again, anyone who needs extra help, what do they need? Is it a breathing device? Is it a cane? Is it a walker? You may not be able to have extras, but where is it stored in your house and know where it's stored every single day. So try to keep it in the same place if you can. Again, always is my grandmother. She's 90 years old. She gets all around really well without anything. But I know when her knee is bothering her, every now and then she'll pull out a cane. So where's her cane stored just in case? Honestly, there's an old one in my car at some point. I don't know, maybe I picked her up and she was using it, she left it there, but I have an extra one for her. So those are the things that we want people to take into account, because if fire's carrying someone out, great, but are you taking their things with you?
Question, is there, I thought there was some kind of sticker that you put for someone who's bedbound or something in the window.
There is, and you know what, I
I don't
haven't
know what it
seen
is.
it, and I just don't know where to get it from. And I'm pretty sure you can find that like at Amazon. Everything. But I know there is an agency who does them, and I cannot think of who it is right now. But it's similar to your pets. How are we going to notify first responders of what's going on in the home or in the apartment? But that's a perfect example of like, we want people to think of those things. So really quick, shelters. First choice is always going to be family and friends. That's why we say share that plan, talk to your family. Can you stay with someone else? You don't want to go into a shelter unless you absolutely have to. I believe with 7400 Roosevelt Boulevard, we had over 100 people displaced. We only had 15 who needed sheltering because people had other places to go, but not everybody does. There was a gentleman who was using the shelter who was actually visiting his son from out of country when that fire happened. So he was one of the people in the shelters. We had another shelter operation where half the building was Airbnb units. So it's kind of one of those things that we can't plan for everything, but if you are home and this is your home base, try to have a backup plan. Second choice is always going to be the city emergency shelters. OEM runs the sheltering operations in the city. We have a list of potential shelter locations throughout with basically their capabilities. So think of like air conditioning in the summertime. ADA accessibility is usually a common denominator for all shelters, but things happen with the schools because 90% of our shelter locations are at schools. We do not publicize that list because it is dependent on where in the city the incident is, what are the needs, and what are the capacity. So we're not going to put a shelter in the middle of a floodplain in a flooding incident. We're going to try to keep it centralized to the needs of the people and to the location of that community so that we're not also taking them far out. We basically welcome and accommodate people with disabilities and service animals and pets. We do have a couple crates on hand in our sheltering trailers that we have pre-packed. We have cots, blankets, all of that. We have the capacity to open up pretty much a shelter within an hour or two of an incident as long as we can get the building opened. And then we do have some portable generators if necessary. We try to prioritize medical needs, so breathing devices, things like that. In major incidents, maybe we might have to power up telecommunications, but we have all of those capabilities at our house. And basically we can deploy pretty much instantaneously the moment someone calls for us. Alright, so we don't really need to go into this next couple slides, but that family plan, this is kind of our old template. I will use that just for visual. I have a copy of the ready.gov family planning templates. This is just your starting point. Mine is a Word document, and I think it's 6 pages long just because I kept thinking of adding things. But you want to think of your emergency contacts, those insurance policies. What other things do you know about? So yeah, I have my dog's temperament typed into that. He's friendly, but he hates other dogs. He loves people. Do I have medical concerns? You know, who else in my household do I need to put specific information down? Because it may not be me there able to answer questions. I might not have it printed, but I have it on a flash drive. I have it in my email. I've emailed it to other people because again, you never know what can happen. Children, so where are they going to school? Their ages. Those are all of the things that you need to think of when you're coming up with this emergency plan. And it seems like a lot of work when you think about it. But like I said, I kept like pouring out information, whatever popped into my brain. That's what I mean about building your family plan. So taking into account the go back planning, taking into account like shelter in place planning, and the actual written out totality of it. But that's all I have for you all. So do you have questions? I know for you guys, a lot of it is the water disruption planning. I can unofficially say that is all on the radar, but unfortunately, as per Allison, a lot of it is like big catastrophic events, right? It's citywide or like large disruption. There is no middle tier like this community planning, and I think that's what you guys are building out right now, and then options for that. So the presentation is kind of like your baseline of like your house and how can we come together. And I think that's great that you guys are working on this. I wish people, kind of thought about the bigger picture more often. Really good stuff. Do you have any questions? None? Okay. Well, I have book bags for you all. There are some goodies in there. I have copies of these. If you want to take them, you can. The other thing I brought, because people don't actually have all of the listing, is all of the free outlines. The 1-1 numbers, as we call them. So yeah, this is great for the fridge. You can just hang it somewhere. There's basically a list of all the hotlines that you can call in city services. And then the book bags. Oh, and my first aid kits too. So these are pre-packed, and I brought these specifically to start your go bag kits. Giving you half of it. I have emergency survival blankets, some ponchos, a face mask,